Hello, everybody, and welcome to AMA LTL. I am so sorry. My name is Maria Suleiman, by the way. I'm so sorry for being late. Was just tied up in a meeting, and then we're going to go ahead and get started right away. If I can start my slideshow. Thank you for joining AMA's LTL. Today, we're going to be talking about the Women-Owned Small Business Program. My name is Maria Suleiman. I'm the Managing Director of AMA Consulting. I have my bio up here. I just want to do a quick check. Please type in the chat box if you can hear me and see my screen. I want to make sure that you can see my screen. Once again, I apologize for starting late. I was just tied up. All right, so my background is 17 years in government contracting. I manage, my professional services government contracting firm, but I also still do organizational development consulting work, and I'm an executive coach by trade. My bio is up here for you to review. I'm not going to go into that because we're kind of like behind schedule. Okay, yes, so everybody can see my screen. All right, so a little bit about AMA Consulting. What we do, we offer professional services in three primary areas. Organizational development, obviously, because that's my trade. We help agencies, federal agencies, primarily with developing strategy, providing support through a reorg, do a ton of training, so leadership development trainings and workshop trainings. We also do change management. The second line of business is business program support, so that's admin support, process improvement, providing technical support for grant programs, public health programs, education programs, and we do some IT support as well. All right, so I'm going to delve right into the Women-Owned Small Business Program. The first thing I want to say is that this is a federal program. So if you are a woman-owned small business and you want to get this certification, it's primarily for federal contracts, okay? It's primarily for federal contracts. So the program was created because the federal government has to do at least 5% of its contracts to women-owned small businesses. And so it was created to provide a level playing field for women-owned small businesses to be able to get access to those federal contracts. Now, in order for you to participate in the program, you need to be certified. There are some requirements that you need to go through in order for you to be certified. The first one, as with all other small business programs, and all the programs are managed by the U.S. Small Business Administration, you have to be small per the size standard, okay? Now, what does that mean? SBA, the U.S. Small Business Administration, calculates your business size by your NAICS code. NAICS stands for North American Industry Classification System, and it's a code that is used essentially to differentiate between industries, different industries. And there is a size standard attached to each NAICS code, so your business has to be smaller than that. That's very important for you because any of the small business programs, whether women-owned, whether 8A, Hub Zone, veteran-owned, you have to be small. The second requirement is that your business has to be at least 51% unconditionally and directly owned by a woman who is a U.S. citizen. This is, again, a hardcore requirement. A lot of times people say, well, if there are three owners and one owner has 40% and the other two owners split 30%, the 40% owner is still the majority owner. That's true, but for the program requirements, you have to have at least 51% unconditional and direct ownership, okay? The third is that the woman must manage the day-to-day operations. I'm kind of speeding through this content. When I teach this class, it's usually 2.5 hours, and I'm trying to cram the content into a half-an-hour webinar. So the woman must manage the business manage the day-to-day operations of the business, which means that she must have the technical expertise, or at least have the skill set to manage people who have the technical expertise for that particular industry that the business is in. The woman must make long-term decisions for the business. The woman must hold the highest office, must manage the business full-time. One critical thing is that there's no minimum amount of time that your business has to have been operational. This is important because if you start your business today and you feel that you meet all the requirements, you can go ahead and apply for this program today and take advantage of set-asides for women-owned small business in federal contracts. The other small business programs like 8A and Hub Zone, there is a time where you minimum required time where you have to have been in business. But for this particular program, it is not a requirement. Okay. If you have any questions, please save them, and I'll make sure I save some time for you to be able to ask your questions at the end. Now, how does the program work? How does the program work? So it's set aside. How does it work? The first thing is that for the set aside, what set aside means is that, let's say the government wants to purchase food service or catering services. Instead of just going out to the general public and saying, we need a firm that can offer catering services for this base, right, this Army base, they can set it aside to say, we need women-owned businesses that can offer catering services for this base. But in order for them to do that, they have to have, number one, reasonable expectation that 2 or more women-owned small businesses will perform the work or can perform the work. Number 2, the women-owned small business program is based on industries. So because of the general law that you can't discriminate against somebody due to gender, sex, sexual orientation, race, and religion, what SBA had to do in order to create this program was to say, do a study and say, hey, there are some industries where women are underrepresented. And there are also some industries where women are substantially underrepresented. And so based on that, they selected those industries. And so only firms or companies in those industries can take advantage of this program. So those are the two things, the first two things. Number one, contracting officer has to do their market research to make sure that there are at least 2 women-owned businesses that can perform the work. Number 2, the NAAQS codes assigned to the contract has to be in one of the industries that fall under either women-owned small business or EDWSB. ED stands for economically disadvantaged. So it's a component of the women-owned small business program. It just means that we'll go into detail about how SBA defines economic disadvantage. But a critical thing I want you to know and take away is that in some industries, you can be both WSB and EDWSB if you meet the requirements. But in some industries, you can only be WSB. And if you see the link at the bottom, Erica's going to post a link for the SBA. You can actually go to SBA's website and you will see the list of NAAQS codes that SBA has researched, and they've put it on there to say these are the NAAQS codes that we feel should go into the 8A program because women are underrepresented in those. And these are the NAAQS codes that we think should go into the EDWSB program because we feel that women businesses are substantially underrepresented. And you can see there are 444 NAAQS codes in the WSB program. In the EDWSB program, there are only 80 NAAQS codes. Okay, so we've addressed those two things. Industry, number 1, rule of 2. Number 3, the contract must be awarded at fair market price. So the contracting officers do what they call independent government estimates, where they'll take whatever, again, using the example of catering services. They will go and do their estimates of what that service will cost in industry. So just because you are in the Women-Owned Small Business Program, that doesn't mean that you can just give the government an outrageous price. It must be awarded at fair market price. Okay, that matches or is close to the independent government estimate. All right, so this is what needs to happen in order for a contracting officer to be able to set aside a contract for a women-owned or economically disadvantaged women-owned small business. Now, in addition to set-asides, a couple of years ago, I believe it was in 2017 with the NDIA Act, the government instituted what they call sole source authority. And sole source simply means a direct award, which means that the government can just issue an award to one company directly without any competition. And so this part of the Women-Owned Small Business Program has not been fully fleshed out in the sense that SBA had to provide a robust certification process so that there's integrity in the program, because when you talk about awarding contracts up to $4 million for services and 6.5 manufacturing, That's a sizable amount of money. And so SBA was supposed to institute verification process for the program in order for the source for there to be integrity with the sole source piece. But they have not done that. So there a lot of contracting officers are very, very skeptical about issuing sole source contracts in the women-owned small business program. But the regs say that they can. Okay, so a couple of things that are conditions for sole source. Number one, again, the contract has to be in one of the eligible NAICS codes for EDWSB and WSB. The second thing is there is a ceiling. There is an amount that you can't go over for sole source. Again, it's 4 million for services and 6.5 for manufacturing. The third thing again is, can the contract be awarded fair and reasonable price, which is same thing with WSB. And the last one is that the contracting officer has to be able to show that there's only one EDWSB that can perform that work. What does that mean? They have to be able to show through market research documents that there are no other small businesses or no other women-owned small businesses that can perform that work before they can sole source it. So this is a high bar to cross for a contracting officer. And if say, for example, they award a sole source WSB contract and GAO comes back and does an audit, they will have to show proof that they did conduct market research and they could only find this one company that could perform the work as a woman-owned small business, and then they sole sourced it to that company. So that's a very high bar. And so you can see how the sole source piece is generally not popular for a lot of contracting officers to want to do this, as opposed to an 8A. If you're familiar with the 8A business development program, that also has sole source, but their sole source authority is very different. That one just says, as long as the 8A company can perform the work, that sole source can take place. The contracting officer does not have to show any market research that, that they show proof that they did any market research that only that company can perform the work. Okay, but if you're a small business and you're going out marketing and you have this certification, it's important. This conversation can take place between you and your customer, saying, if they like you and they want to work with you, the contracting officer can do the market research. You can get a sole source under the Women-Owned Small Business Program, which is a huge, huge opportunity, especially for a small business. And even if it's not a sole source and it's just limited competition within women-owned small businesses, you're still shrinking the competition pool from maybe 10,000 small businesses that will be competing for that work, as opposed to 2,000 or 3,000 if it's set aside for women-owned. So it still gives you a higher win probability. Now, in terms of EDWSB, I mentioned earlier when I started that the government set some criteria in order for you to meet. So there are three things. Very quickly, I'll go over them. Personal net worth. In order for you to be economically disadvantaged, your personal net worth, which is your personal assets minus liabilities, excluding the equity in your primary residence, excluding the equity in the business, income reinvested or used to pay for taxes, funds in your retirement account provided you are under 59 and a half. Excluding those assets, your net worth has to be under $750,000. Okay? Again, you have to, when you apply for the program, and I'll go into that, you're going to have to show proof. If you're going for the EDWSB and you have your industry NAICS code is one of those that are approved under EDWSB, you have to show that you meet this criteria for economic disadvantage. Secondly, your gross average income for the last 3 years has to be $350,000, and it's tax years. So now in 2019, they're going to be looking at your gross income for 2018, 17, and 16, and the average of that has to be $350,000. Again, excluding income reinvested into the business or income used to pay taxes. And lastly, your the fair market value of all your assets cannot exceed $6 million. Excuse me. So you have to meet all three of these criteria in order for you to be considered economically disadvantaged. It's not one of the three or two of the three. It's three of the three. Okay, a couple of points to mention here. If you are married, SBA will just be calculating your portion of your joint assets. However, they may look into your spouse's assets if your spouse has been providing you financial support or they guarantee the loan or if they're in the same, if your spouse is in a similar line of business, you share like business names or website or employees, then there comes there's where SBA starts to look into affiliation, and so they may look at your spouse's assets as well. But typically, they're looking at your portion. Okay. I talked about the IRA and an official retirement account. You have to be under 59 and a half, meaning that you can't get access to those funds without significant penalty. Otherwise, your IRA and retirement account will count towards your net worth and towards your assets if you're over 59 and a half. Okay? Now, what do you need in order for you to apply for the program in terms of documents and supporting documents and forms? Excuse me. Excuse me. Oh, okay. So what do you need? A couple of things. Number one, you have to be registered in the system for award management. That is the system that is basically the federal government supplier database. So everybody who gets a penny from the federal government has to be registered in SAM. So whether you're a small business, you're a federal, a state government, local government, you're a nonprofit that gets grants, every single entity that gets a penny from the federal government has to be registered in SAM. So if you are interested in doing business with the government, and in order for you to get certified, you have to be registered in SAM. You have to have your business DUNS number. Dun and Bradstreet is I would say Equifax and TransUnion for business, and they assign your company a number, and that number is part of what you need to be able to register in SAM. And that's a unique number that's also used as a qualifier for your business in government contracting. So like even with contracts, with your profile in SAM, you can always be identified with your DUNS number. Couple of things to register in SAM to keep in mind: your DUNS number, your EIN, your MPIN information must match. A couple of things that trip people up when they're registering their company in SAM is your address is a little bit different, or the name of your company. So for example, our official legal name is AMA Consulting LLC. If I went to register in SAM and just put AMA Consulting and I didn't put the LLC, and the system checks with the IRS EIN, it's going to come back and say that entity cannot be found. So your company name, your company address, all of that information has to match exactly as they are with the IRS. Okay. A couple of other things that you need once you're registered in SAM is you have to go to sbacertified.sba.gov to do the application. But before you go there, you have to collect all these documents. Remember, citizenship is a requirement, so you need to show proof of citizenship, like your birth certificate or your naturalization certificate if you are not a natural born citizen or an unexpired passport. You need to show your resume. Sometimes the government may come back and say they're not sure if the woman who owns the business 51% has technical expertise, because that is a requirement in the CFR 13 CFR 127. You have to have the technical expertise to be able to run the firm. Why is that important? Because they want to make sure that the woman is not just a shell for somebody else who's really running the company. A third thing, if you have any joint venture agreements, you have to put that into the application. If you're a corporation, they want your articles, copies of your stock ledger front and back to show ownership, your corporate bylaws and any amendments. LLC, they want your copy of your articles of organization, your operating agreement, partnership. And the reason they want to see all these documents is to make sure that the woman controls the company, not just has 51 majority ownership, but also controls the company. Making day-to-day decisions, setting strategic direction for the company. Additional documents for EDWSB, because this has a financial component, you have to submit what is called a personal financial statement. And that's essentially where you have to answer questions about how much money you have in your account, and information about all your assets, if you have stocks or bonds, if you have real estate. And you have to submit a Form 4506T, which is a request for tax transcript. 3 most recent personal income tax returns, including all schedules. 3 most recent W-2s. Again, they're using this information to verify that you meet the income threshold of average of $350,000 for the last 3 years. Okay, and you have to provide statements for all of your assets and all of your liabilities. So all of the assets you have, cash surrender value for your life insurance, stocks and bonds, your retirement account, checking, savings, cash on hand, as well as your liabilities like your mortgage, your credit card statements. They want to see where you stand in terms of net worth. So you have to gather all this information and all these documents before you start the application process. All right, now there are two ways to get certified. One is self-certification. The second one is third-party certification. As I mentioned to you, SBA is still in the process of setting up a formal certification process for this program. Ideally, because of the Sole Source Authority, what they should do is have companies actually apply, and then SBA vets all the information themselves and then determine who gets into the program. But they don't have that machinery yet. So it's still self-certification, but that I attended the National 8A conference a few weeks ago, and the general counsel at SBA, John Klein, was there and was saying that they're in the final stages of putting that certification process together, and that's going to be rolled out within the next 9 to 12 months. I can tell you that it will definitely be more difficult to get into the program once there's that formal certification process in place. So if you think that you qualify, you should definitely try to get your certification in as soon as possible. So right now you can do the self-certification. It's free to self-certify. Again, register in SAM, and you answer all the questions in certified.sba.gov, and you upload all the documents. Once you do that, then you can go into SAM and represent yourself as a WSB or EDWSB, okay, depending on your NAICS codes. There's also another option of third-party certification. So third-party certification is just a little bit more of a rubber stamp saying that another entity that's approved by SBA reviewed all your documents and certified your company. People always ask me, is there a benefit of doing the third-party certification? I say, well, to some extent, yes, because they actually give you a certificate, and although the certificate is not from SBA, but I mean, it doesn't really make a difference. So you're certified, whether you go through third party or whether you do it yourself, okay? There are 4 organizations that are approved by SBA to do the third party certifications. One is the Women's Chamber of Commerce, WeBank, National Women's Business Owners Corporation, and the El Paso Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. These organizations charge a fee. I believe it's between $300 and $500, I'm not sure. But essentially the process is you would still have to register in SAM. You can't do anything until you're registered in SAM. Then you would go to the third party and do all the process with them, fill out all their forms, submit the same documents. And then once they certify you, you still have to go into certified.sba.gov and upload everything. So it's kind of like an extra step, just for like an extra stamp, but it really doesn't make any difference. A couple of things: if you are already certified 8A company, your 8A certification can count. So you wouldn't have to go through the process. All you would need to do is just upload your participant approval letter for the 8A program, and you will be certified. You have to maintain your certification every year. So once you go through the certification, on the date that you are certified, you have to, re-upload like your tax returns and new documents that have changed to maintain your certification. Otherwise, that certification is not active. Now, why is it important? You say, well, self-certification is not a big deal if I don't, if all the information in there is not accurate. In order for a contracting officer to award a women-owned WSB set-aside, they have to go into the repository, into certified.sba.gov, and verify that that company has submitted all the required information and that the required information is accurate before they issue an award. So even though it's self-certification, you want to make sure that you do it correctly and that you meet the program requirement, because what you don't want is, after having marketed an opportunity and at the time that you're about to get an award, they're going to certified.sba.gov, and then they find out that your company doesn't have all the information in there and you don't get the award. So that's pretty much all of the content. It's a lot of content, and we were trying to post the link, but it looks like the link wasn't working. So we'll send it in an email to all the attendees. And we'll also send the Excel spreadsheet of all the NAICS codes, so that you can go through and see if your NAICS code is there, and then go through the application process. Now, any questions? Any questions about the content, about the certification process, about NAICS codes? This is our contact information: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. You can go to our website. We do AMA LTLs twice a month on a variety of topics. In April, we're going to be talking about building a highly effective team, and I can't remember what the other topic is on. But the webinars are 30 minutes. So, just quick nuggets on key information that can help you be successful professionally. So we do a variety of topics on management, leadership, on small business. Okay, so let me answer this question real quick. Any other questions? I don't have any questions. This is just people saying that they could see this screen. Okay, here we go. Does the 51% ownership need to be from a single woman? Our company is 50-50 for 2 women. Will one of us need to have 51 to apply? Yeah, so here's the thing. In terms of certifications, I always recommend that you only use one person to apply, because the certification is not just only based on the individual, it's also based on the business. So if it's 50-50, I would say one person get 51%, and then the certification should be based on that one person, so that if that 49% owner at any date decides that they want to go start another business and get certified, they can still be certified on another business on their name. What if you started a process but did not complete? Should you continue? Yes. So if you started the process, where did you start the process? Because they just changed it about a year and a half ago to certified.sba.gov. So if you didn't start it in certified.sba.gov, then you probably need to go into certified.sba.gov to start it. But if you started it in certified.sba.gov, your information should still be there, so you can go ahead and just continue from when you started in terms of answering the questions. Because what used to happen was that you would have to go apply for it in GLS. So it was a different system, so they changed the system. If someone has 300,000 life insurance policy, how at all does that factor to your certification? So the thing about life insurance policies is that they're looking at the cash surrender value. So if you are going to cash out that life insurance, that $300,000 life insurance, what is the value of that? So they're not looking at the amount that your beneficiaries would get, God forbid, if anything were to happen to you. They're looking at the cash surrender value. So the cash surrender value counts towards your net worth, not the payout amounts. And also, you would have to submit the documents for all of that. So if you had you have to submit the statement that shows the cash surrender value. And a lot of times with the life insurance, when you print out the statement, you will see, depending on how when you started the policy, it will tell you what the cash surrender value is. A lot of times the cash surrender value is based on how much you've paid in. You're welcome. All right, any other questions? Because we started late, yeah, we're right at the 30-minute mark. So I'm gonna stay on for another minute just to make sure that I answer all the other questions. I kind of skipped through this slide really quickly, but I wanted to go back to it in terms of the document checklist. If you want to take a picture of the slide so that you can have, and all of this information is on SBA's website, but sometimes it's difficult to navigate. But if you want to take a picture of this slide and just make sure that you are putting your documents together. One quick thing I wanted to mention in terms of your corporate documents, in your operating agreement and in your bylaws, you do want to make sure that the person upon whom eligibility is based has management and control. So with the way your operating agreement and bylaws are written matters a lot. Again, in self-certification, nobody's going to go in to look at it now, but God forbid you win a contract, $20 million contract that was a WSB set aside, and somebody protests and say, well, I know that company, they're not really woman-owned. When GAO goes into your application as certified at SBA.gov, you want to make sure that your operating agreement, your bylaws, and everything show that you have control. So that's when those things will matter. It was mentioned that you must be doing the business. So we have another question. It was mentioned that you must do the business, you must be doing the business full time. If the business is a part-time business, 10 hours or so, how does that factor in when it's in full time? Yeah, so here is the thing. With the certification, they want you to be working in your business on a full-time basis. And so that's one of the reasons they ask for W-2s, to see where you're receiving income from. And the reality is that you cannot do a government contracting business part-time. I mean, it's just doing work with the government is just it's a very compliance intensive industry that you really have to be an established business with established business infrastructure and a team and be all in full time. So they also want to make sure that if you get the certification, you'll be able to access it and use it for contracts. So it's not really for part-time businesses, it's more for full-time. All right, thank you all so much for hanging out with us today. Check out our website for more webinars that we have coming up. And let me see if I can put in the link here. I just posted the link for SBA, so you can go and make sure you do your research and read up before you start the process. And again, please feel free to contact us if you have more specific questions. info@ama-consult.com. Thank you so much for your time today. I'm just checking one last time if I have another question before I log out. Nope. All right. Take care. Bye-bye. Why was my mind stuck? We started 12:30 at 12 o'clock. Me too. I was thinking 12:30.